This is You've Already Been Hacked, recorded on 13 February 2021. We have some industrial control systems getting hacked, $60 million locked away and may never be able to be retrieved, and maybe some good incentives for companies to follow. Let's get into it. This past week, officials from Pinellas County in Florida announced that an unidentified hacker remotely gained access to a panel that controls the city of Oldsmar's water treatment system and changed the setting that would have drastically increased the amount of sodium hydroxide in the water supply. In a press conference, the county sheriff said that a legitimate operator saw the change and quickly reversed it, but signaled that the hacking attempt was a serious threat to the city. Sodium hydroxide is also known as lye, L-Y-E, and can be deadly if ingested in large amounts. So, what did the hacker do? The hacker changed the amount of the sodium hydroxide from about 100 parts per million to 11,100 parts per million. When asked if this should be considered an attempt at bioterrorism, the sheriff said, "What it is someone hacked into the system, not just once, but twice, opened the program and changed the levels from 1 to 1101 parts per million with that caustic substance. So, you label it however you want, those are the facts," unquote. In small quantities, sodium hydroxide is able to cause severe skin burns and eye damage. Small amounts of sodium hydroxide are put into some cities' drinking water supplies to prevent corrosion to the pipes and to help bring the pH levels up. It's considered a strong base. This hacker, however, was able to control that part of the system from somewhere for about 3 to 5 minutes and was operating various functions on the screen. Now, as the county sheriff mentioned, the hacker had access twice during the event, and this looked like it happened last Friday. One time at 8 a.m. in the morning, and one time at 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon. In both events, an operator noticed it, saw the intruder log off the system, and then immediately changed the levels back. The county sheriff's office announced that there were steps being taken to further stop remote access to the system, and other safeguards have put in place, as well as a criminal investigation has been started with the FBI and the U.S. Secret Service. The system accessed by the hacker required a password to be controlled remotely, and in an update to the media, we found that the system was using TeamViewer. Now, this remote attempt is certainly not the first one that's happened to a piece of critical infrastructure. Another comparable incident was carried out by an insider rather than an external hacker when a former IT consultant for a sewage treatment plant in Australia used his remote access to dump millions of gallons of raw sewage into local parks and rivers. Also, going further back to December 2015, the Russian hacking group known as Sandworm hijacked a remote access piece of software similar to TeamViewer and used it to open circuit breakers in the Ukrainian electric grid, turning off power to 250,000 people. Now, that one particular event I have discussed for years in my cybersecurity risk management class as a key example of what could have happened in a worst case scenario. The lucky part of this for those people in the Ukraine, it was one of the warmest days on record that December. So take that for what it's worth. And another event that is of interest is in 2016, Verizon Security Solutions reported that hackers broke into an unidentified water utility and changed the chemical levels then as well. All right, so let's take a moment. Let's go back to TeamViewer. TeamViewer, for those that don't know, is a common piece of software that anyone can download that many organizations use to remotely control their computer systems. I personally have had some run-ins with security concerns with TeamViewer in the past, even when it's been set up with a username and password with a secondary PIN. I can remember an event where I was sitting at my computer system and I had opened a notepad, and then I suddenly saw someone or something typing in that notepad. It was the most frightening experience I have ever had in my computing because I knew that whatever was happening was certainly not coming from me. The only thing that I could find on my system that would have potentially allowed that to have happened at that moment in time, and this was years ago, just to be clear, was TeamViewer. I have never used it since. The moment I uninstalled that piece of software, I have not had any of those type of issues. Now, I've also cycled through several computer systems since then, so I don't think I have to worry about any residuals or backdoors from that particular. The county sheriff stated that the water treatment facility had uninstalled TeamViewer since the attack, but he couldn't otherwise comment on what other security measures the plant was taking to remove the intruder's access or prevent another breach. He added that officials have warned all government organizations in the wider Tampa Bay area to review their security protocols and make updates to protect themselves. Quote, "We want to make sure that everyone realizes these kind of bad actors are out there. It's happening," unquote. So, the story here is, as it's something that we have said many times on this podcast, and I tell my students religiously, if it's connected to the internet, it's exploitable. All right, let's move on to another industrial control system event. Electrobus, the largest power company in Latin America, faces a temporary suspension of some of their operations. 2 state-owned utility companies in Brazil suffered separate ransomware attacks this past week, forcing them to shut down some operations and services temporarily. In one case, sensitive data was stolen and dumped online, including network access logins and engineering plans. Eletrobras and Companhia Paranaense de Energia, or COPEL, both reported attacks, the later of which appeared to be the work of DarkSide, which flogged data stolen from the attack online, according to published reports. Now, DarkSide is a technically innovative ransomware group that's tried to brand itself as altruistic. The digital Robin Hood of charitable donations with Bitcoin it's stolen from its victims. In this case, the group has said it stole more than 1,000 gigabytes of COPEL data in the attack, including sensitive information allowing for access to key infrastructure, personally identifiable information of the top management and customers, and detailed engineering plans of the company's network, according to the published report, which included a snapshot of an ad for the data from a hacker forum. Both state utilities have a significant presence in the country, with Eletrobras being the largest utility in Latin America and the owner of Electron Nuclear, which constructs and operates nuclear power plants. COPEL is the largest provider in the Brazilian state of Paraná. It's not clear at this time who's behind the Eletrobras attack, which the company acknowledged in a press release posted earlier this week. Like we said, it could be DarkSide. It looks like it's DarkSide, but it's not yet confirmed. The attack hit the administrative network of Electron Nuclear's subsidiary, which runs 2 nuclear power plants, Angra 1 and Angra 2. In the case of the attack on Electron Nuclear, the company said it had to suspend some of its systems to protect the integrity of the data. The current, at least stated, silver lining here is that it was only on the administrative network, not the operational technology systems that run the power plant, which the company states are isolated from the network for security reasons. Hackers have stated they gained access to the company's CyberArk cloud security solution for privileged access management, and exfiltrated plain text passwords across Copal's local and internet infrastructure. Some more detail on the information that was taken in that 1,000 gigabytes from Copal is local and internet infrastructure network maps and diagrams, backup schemes and schedules, domain zones for cope.com and copal.nt domains, a database that stores Active Directory data, phone numbers, emails, and ID, as well as other personal data of employees and customers, including non-disclosure agreements, finances, and contact information, as well as detailed engineering schemas and plans for network switches. If you've been using Windows Defender on your Microsoft Windows computers, you've had a vulnerability in your system for 12 years. Microsoft has fixed a privileged escalation vulnerability in Microsoft Defender Antivirus, formerly known as Windows Defender, that could allow attackers to gain administrative rights on unpatched Windows systems. The elevation of privileges flaw tracked and is called CVE 2021-24092, impacts Windows Defender versions going as far back as 2009 and affects clients and servers releases starting with Windows 7 and moving forward. The actors with basic user privileges can exploit it locally as part of a low complexity attack that does not require user interaction. The vulnerability also impacts other Microsoft security products, including but not limited to Microsoft Endpoint Protection, Microsoft Security Essentials, and Microsoft System Center Endpoint Protection. The cybersecurity firm SentinelOne found and reported the vulnerability in November of 2020. Microsoft released a patch this past Tuesday, together with other security patches as part of their February 2021 patch update. The vulnerability was discovered in the btr.sys driver, also known as the boot time removal tool, used during the remediation process to delete files and registry entries created by malware on infected systems. SentinelOne stated that they assume that this vulnerability remained undiscovered until now because the driver is normally not present on the hard drive, but rather dropped and activated when needed with a random name, and then purged away. The last Microsoft Malware Protection Engine version affected by this vulnerability is version 1.1.17700.4. The version where the bug is addressed is 1.1.17800.5. So check your updates, make sure you've applied your security patches, and make sure your systems close this hole. Do you like cryptocurrency? The professor likes cryptocurrency. I wish I had a lot of it. I don't. I just dabble. But I don't get to be as sad as someone else. German authorities have seized a Bitcoin wallet worth $60 million, but they do not have the password to open it. The $60 million in Bitcoins was obtained by fraudulent activity online. The original owner of the wallet was convicted of installing Bitcoin mining software on people's computers without permission and has served more than 2 years in German prison. But, like we said, the wallet is encrypted. And the individual that's behind bars has steadfastly refused to disclose the password, protecting 1,700 Bitcoins. The value of Bitcoin has soared in the past 2 years, and I believe as of this program is worth $46,000 per coin. The German news organization BR says that if the authorities do gain access, the Bitcoins would be sold and the cash would go into the state treasury. The reason for that is because the Bitcoins apparently weren't stolen from anyone in particular. They were freshly minted with hacked computing power. Protect your keys, folks. Don't lose $60 million in cryptocurrency. And finally, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, is proposing a rule change that would allow the federal government to subsidize electric companies that implement cybersecurity measures beyond the minimum standards required by current regulations. FERC is seeking a comment on a proposed rule change, which was published on the 5th of February in the Federal Register. The proposal seeks to have public utilities have deferred cost recovery for any cybersecurity improvements they make to their infrastructure that go beyond the minimum requirements developed by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. The policy allows for 3 categories of improvements: third-party hardware, software, and computing, and network services, employee training to implement the upgrades, and costs associated with the implementation, such as risk assessments by third parties or internal system reviews, according to what's in the Federal Register. FERC cites the coronavirus pandemic as one of the reasons the change is necessary. Quote, the rapid expansion of teleworking capabilities revealed potential vulnerabilities and some identified cybersecurity events specifically targeting remote access network equipment, unquote. FERC went on to state that it's important that public utilities make cybersecurity investments to quickly and effectively address the challenges we face, as well as other emerging threats. This proposal also leaves open the possibility that any improvements companies take up voluntarily that are proven to be effective may eventually become mandatory. Comments are due back the 6th of April, 2021. That's all for the news this week. I'm your professor of cyber risk. We'll talk again soon.